when you think about Nazi punks fuck off, how like do you see like a rise in Nazism right now? Because I've seen you sing that song recently, like on video, and
Yeah.
I gotta just ask, like, how do you feel? Like thinking about when you wrote it and thinking about where we're at as a society now.
Well, I think the scary part is, I mean, I always watch corporate news for what Wall Street and the military industrial complex really have in mind for us. And they really, really, really want lockstep fascism now. I mean, capitalism isn't good enough. They won't stop till it's total in your face feudalism, which it practically is at this point. And the more people get upset about how badly being hurt, the more you have to have a violent fascist police state that people actually like because you've got them afraid of something else and stuff. And instead of Joseph Goebbels, we have, all the corporate McNews networks pretty much and on down, all that and stuff. Who owns what now? It's not just Rupert Murdoch, it's the other wannabe Rupert Murdochs who let him be out front and take all the bullets and spears to satiate his egomania and all that. I mean, what do you do when Jerry Hall leaves you and stuff? She married you when you were pushing 90 and then she divorced you anyway. Didn't even wait for your money. But anyway, but you see these signs like Trump announces for president, and it is all over all the news. When other people like that, even Steve Forbes announced, has a hell of a lot more money than Donald Trump, there wasn't this big thing about it. I mean, obviously, he was a tabloid, comedy star and very bankable one for decades and all. But and he loved it. It got him attention, and he wanted attention, didn't care how he got it. So, but then the fact that he said such horrible things about immigrants and Mexicans in particular, they're rapists and everything else, they played that up. Even if they finally said, he shouldn't have said that, they played it up. Pop stardom in a political candidate kind of way overnight. And I thought, oh, well, then I did one of my little YouTube rants, which is my way of staying in the spoken word game when I decided to get back to rocking too. No, very few, if any, spoken word shows, but I really feel something needs to be said. It comes on as "What would Jello do?"
Mhm.
I found a "What would Jesus do" shirt in a thrift store years before, and I just got a piece of masking tape and put Jello across the Jesus. And my rant casts were off and running. And they started small, like when Jerry Brown ran for governor again, and Gavin Newsom stormed off to Hawaii and disappeared on his own city for 10 days in a tantrum because he went down to Hollywood and nobody would give him money to be governor. He was still really young, calling himself the California Obama, but they think, no, we don't care if you're going to promote yourself that way. We're all back in Jerry Brown because he knows how to be a governor. He didn't take that very well. But where was I going with that? What was the original question?
It was about Nazi punks fuck
Oh,
off.
Nazi punks fuck off. And how did that get to news? Oh, yes, of course. What would Jello do? The very first one was about Meg Whitman, who the Republicans put up against Jerry Brown because she basically bought that nomination and stuff with the money she got from eBay and whatever else. And I noticed right away, oh my God, even the page boy haircut. She and Charles Lawton were separated at birth. They really, really were. And then Ralph Spider, guitarist, when we're mixing one of the songs from Enhanced Methods of Questioning, another Guantanamo School of Medicine release, he pulled up Lawton and Meg Whitman, put them side by side in his computer, and yes, they were separated at birth. So important information like that was how What Would Jello Do began. And then some of them since they've grown into things. So I got to research them. I got to make all this stuff used to make for a spoken word show, but it's a once only long spoken word show. I think what happens when the government riots after George Floyd, that took something like 7 episodes of 30, 40 minutes or whatever, because I had so much to say about how fucked up the police and our police state and the people behind them are in this country, as well as the some solutions for that, including making the police run for election and whatnot. And and I even had, of course, vivid memories being a news hound, as a actual literal child of the 60s, as well as 70s, 80s, 90s, and all that, political junkie as a kid, what have you. I knew a lot of bad stuff about a lot of police officers and a lot of police departments. And even in Boulder, they took the guy who thought there was a hippie troublemaker who camped out in Central Park downtown with a people called the STP family, or supposedly the worst people. He called himself Deputy Dog. One fine day, Deputy Dog was run over on the Denver Boulder Turnpike, US 36. I think it was going down the hill, swooping down the hill into Boulder Valley. If you're coming from Denver, you can't walk there. That's a very long walk, especially if you're as loaded as Deputy Dog usually probably was. And sure enough, another friend of mine actually was John Greenway, whose father, who was at one time was a lefty guy, even a folk singer, the John Greenway who was on Folkways and had a whole album, Labor Songs, another one, Atomic Bomb Song one, and world-renowned anthropology professor who went way right-wing in later years to the point where he became a reserve police officer with the Boulder Police Department. So you get a lot of the locker room chatter and stuff of other cops and reserve cops. And one of them was just giggling away about how they pumped Deputy Dog through a bunch of acid or whatever and just let him go in the middle of the turnpike and let him wander the freeway till he was killed. And that was how they got rid of him. Later, right before he died, an already infamous sheriff's officer, who I remembered from growing up as being a super violent guy out of Netherlands, named Renner Forbes, he confessed on his deathbed he murdered Deputy Dog. They really did do that. So I know there are well-meaning police officers along the way, but there's also the kinds who, kick down a door and just shoot so many bullets into Breonna Taylor in Louisville that you can't even recognize her body and stuff. Amadou Diallo in New York. This goes way, way, way back. Oscar Grant at the BART station in Oakland. All kinds of stuff. It's like they're a little more.
It's a system that needs to be overhauled.
Yeah,
it just needs to be.
Well, yeah, you overhaul
like if they were elected
for office.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so fast forwarding to
basically that one took a month out of my life to get all the research and everything down because I had a lot to say that needed to be said. And that's the way it's done. All those What Would Jello Do's are up on the Alternative Tentacles YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've watched a few. I definitely watched a few of those.
Some are short, some are long.
Yeah.
The last one was so long that Weirder Together, the little umbrella people that host my podcast, that's the new one, kind of not totally replacing Renegade Roundtable, but higher production value. I interview people I interviewed Greg Palast on my show instead of after doing his a while back before that, etc. Jello Biafra's Renegade Roundtable, available, quote unquote, wherever you get your podcasts. That's the new one.